Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating, it's Sunday, August 29th, 2021. In both the Lynn Life and the Jamie Body Mind, the authorized souls remain only child souls from the deeper, denser dimensions, and all other souls from all other dimensions, as long as the souls are already living by the many search for truth rules, already given to the search for truth community by wiser minds above all of us, and regardless of whether or not the souls themselves are living by the rules. The host lives are beholden to the rules. All host lives who have been part of the exactly 1 million souls, 1,000,000 host lives that have been tagged with that soul plan are beholden to the rules. And sometimes the members of that community want to think that that can't possibly be true, but it is still true. They're talking about the Battle of New Orleans in the history of the armed conflicts between the U.S. and Britain, and how the armed conflicts started before 1776.
That's right.
And went through the War of 1812 into January of 1815, which is when the Battle of New Orleans ended. And in the Battle of New Orleans, the U.S. had already bought, during Thomas Jefferson's tenure as president, the U.S. bought the Louisiana Purchase from France. They spent the entire federal budget for the year on the Louisiana Purchase. They didn't do anything else. That's what they did with their money. And that was definitely a visionary move by Thomas Jefferson, and good for him.
Yep.
And who is one of the many lives who is a reincarnation of a very high quality soul who has graced our planet multiple times as Shakespeare and as Mozart and as Thomas Jefferson, among others, among many others. So we are very grateful to that soul for all he tried to do for us, and that we haven't handled the situation very well. Oh, hey, there's one of those.
There is.
Yes.
Yellow jacket hoverflies.
Thank you. Yellow jacket hoverfly is a fly that mimics an aggressive wasp.
That's
and the flies will even attack actual wasp nests, and they're flies. They aren't able to sting or even bite.
Nope.
Those flies are not. Some biting flies do exist, horse flies, deer flies, etc., but that's not one of them.
That's right.
So it's all on bluff. He's just living on bluff. For him is a message. And why do you ask? And now they're talking about Hurricane Ida, who is right now encamped off of New Orleans.
That's right.
Hurricane Ida is one of a category of storms. It's a very important category. It's called rapid intensification storms. And Hurricane Andrew is a very well-known rapid intensification storm. Intensified overnight, was coming ashore. There was a storm, definitely. We all knew it. It's going to hit Miami. Yep, everybody's copacetic. And then in the overnight went from a Category 1-2 to a Category 5 or higher. We don't actually know how strong Andrew's winds were, because at 185 miles an hour, the wind gauge broke off. So nobody really knows. At least 185 miles an hour, which is a significant storm. And it happened quickly, and therefore the residents of the Miami and Homestead areas did not really have much time to prepare. And Hurricane Ida is one of those categories of storms, and in the dreaming overnight over there, the dreamer seemed to be somehow affiliated with Hurricane Ida.
That's right.
And felt very nervous all day yesterday, not sure she was going to be able to do her job. And the assignment seems to be a rapid intensification storm, and to hit the gator on the nose and see if the gator will let go, which is just helpful tip. If you're ever bitten by a gator and you're trying to get the gator to let go of you, hit the gator, punch him full force as hard as you can in the nose, just right in the nose, like between the two nostrils. Bam! do it like you mean it, because otherwise that gator's going to take you down, drown you, and eat you.
That's true.
So Ida's instructions are to hit the gator on the nose, and when we look at the map of where Ida's headed, she's headed for Louisiana, and like here's the Gulf of Mexico, and here's New Orleans, and right south of New Orleans, there's where the river delta, Mississippi River, continues on into the Gulf. That's the nose of the gator, and Ida's supposed to punch that nose of the gator and hit it as hard as Andrew hit Miami. That's the standard, to do as much damage as Andrew did to Miami. And obviously by the time this video is posted, we'll know whether or not that occurred. But for the moment, Ida is just approaching New Orleans right now. Right. And now they're once again talking about the Battle of New Orleans in 1815. And what happened, because that was an area that was hotly contested. France had control of it kind of like for the moment, and they sold it to the fledgling U.S. government. And the Spanish were also involved, and there were some skirmishes with the Spanish, and then the British were really trying to retake something, because they had come to regret emptying their jails into the colonies.
That's
and then
right.
Go figure, the criminals they sent to the colonies stole the colonies.
That's right, though.
And hindsight's 20/20, and I've done stupid things also, so I don't feel judgmental at all. And they were trying to salvage something of all their centuries of effort and investment from these criminals who stole the country, which we can understand. And so they were trying to take New Orleans and West Florida, which was a state of its own for a little bit.
That's right.
Like Virginia, West Virginia, there was Florida, West Florida. There's a little tidbit, you could Google that. Mm-hmm. And so they were trying to retake that whole area, and it was less than a month, December 1814, January 1815.
That's right.
And the U.S. forces were severely outnumbered. And I know this from a book that my aunt, one of my aunties, wrote. She wrote about it because of family history and the New Orleans area.
That's right.
And that the British severely outnumbered the U.S. forces, and the U.S. forces, who were all male, said they would burn the city of New Orleans rather than give it to the British. And the women didn't agree with that philosophy, but men don't listen to women any better than they do now. Like, they still don't listen to women. Newsflash. And so the women of New Orleans were unable to get through to their men, and so they went to the church and they prayed to Our Lady of Prompt Succor, of fast help.
That's right.
And they prayed to Our Lady of Prompt Succor to allow the U.S. forces to win so that they wouldn't burn the town of New Orleans. And by some miracle, the U.S. forces did win.
That's right.
And the priest had promised something like masses or something. And if the battle was held by the Americans, and the priest has held to that promise, the priests of that church have held to that promise since 1815. So far. For him is the message, and why do you ask? And now they're talking about Ida again.
That's right.
And they're saying that she has this job of creating as much havoc in New Orleans as Andrew created in South Florida. And we have asked, why is this? And then they talk about Yeshua the Christ, and how when he was a young teenager he went into the temples in Jerusalem. His parents had brought him there, And he threw a fit. He said, my father's house should be a house of prayer, and you've made it into a den of thieves. And he kicked over the tables.
That's right.
Then his mom and dad got him hustled out of the country in hiding because they thought he was going to get killed, which is a reasonable interpretation of what just happened. But that's what he said. You've made this into a den of thieves. And that's what's happened in the Louisiana coast, is what these people are saying. And we're just channeling what they're saying. And they're saying that it's turned into a den of thieves and that they worship in the temple of the oil baron.
I hear you.
And that's no. And that they have to give that up, and they're worshiping false idols. Somebody's on a roll.
That's what they're talking about.
And therefore, Ida's supposed to clean up the temple of the oil baron, like Christ, the Yeshua Christ presence, cleaned up the temples in Jerusalem, at least for the time being. Woo.
Right.
So channeling. This is channeling. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Leave us out of it. We're just channelers, right?
Oh. And someone in that higher dimension room is saying one of the great things about a storm is that you can't grab it by the arms and drag it out of a building, and you can't put it in a jail.
It's kind of like a virus.
That's what they're talking about.
They're unimpressed with our lies. All the lies in the world don't change the reality of the situation. So now we see these higher presences upstairs who have been given funding in other dimensions.
Oh dear. Yeah,
and their funding is about to be cut because they're just frittering it away. They're wasting it. And if they can't start delivering on their assignments, like in this case, devastate New Orleans, to the same standard that Andrew devastated Miami. Whatever happened in the Miami and South Florida region, that same level of destruction in New Orleans, and it would have to be inflation adjusted. So if you're going to measure it in dollars, which we don't recommend, you'd have to adjust it for inflation. We think like square miles of devastation would be another way of looking at it.
That's right.
And we know that when it's done, that coast of the Gulf of Mexico should be smooth. You know how Louisiana is like a bump and it sticks out, the nose of the gator? That's not supposed to be there. It's supposed to just be smooth. So that whole lower part of Louisiana that sticks out is supposed to be gone. And this brings us no great joy because we have family in that region.
Very much.
And who we love.
Very much.
And we love the land and the area and the culture and the magic that is southern Louisiana.
That is true.
Like very few places on earth. We love it. But it's lost its way. It's worshipping at the altar of the oil baron. And oil is destroying our planet.
That's right.
And none of us like it. I don't like it either.
Bummer.
It's a real bummer. There are many things that we absolutely loved. We loved power boating. We loved flying in airplanes. And we loved Club Med. And none of those things are philosophically coherent with the realities of today. And so we've given them all up.
That's right.
And more. And much, much, much more.
That's right.
For whom is the message, and why do you ask? So they're saying that in 1815, the bad thing was bearing down onto the village of New Orleans, just like right now, this moment, the bad thing is bearing down onto the village of New Orleans. And then what happened is the women prayed. They gathered at a certain church, a certain convent, and they prayed. And the priest joined them and said, "And if you spare us, then we will make this sacrifice." And it worked. And the priest has kept his word, or the parish has kept the word of the priest for 200 plus years. So what I think would be required, they're asking, so what would be the similar sacrifice? And we think that the oil, they'd have to give up the oil industry and say we all quit, and everybody who works for the oil industry in Louisiana just quit, just stop being associated with it. And actually, if you look at each person's individual best interests, that's what they probably need to do anyway, because it's an enormous weight of bad karma, an enormous karmic burden to be associated with the oil industry in this era when it is crystal clear that must stop, that's actually destroying all life on Earth.
That's true.
So, karmically, that's a bad thing to be doing with our time. So, possibly that's what people are supposed to do, is say, personally, that's it, I quit. For him is a message. Why do you ask? And then meanwhile, Hurricane Ida's assignment is to punch the gator on the nose.
That feels so
as hard as you can until the gator either lets go or, which isn't going to happen, by the way, heads up, until she's inflicted an equal amount of damage. That's her assignment. Inflict an equal amount of damage. Which again does not bring us joy, but it doesn't bring us joy that this culture, who we really love, is affiliated with this industry that's clearly in the wrong.
That's true.
For him is the message. Why do you ask?